So in today's video, I have a collection of older cameras that I thought would be interesting to see what kind of impact loads and damage they can take before they become completely destroyed. So in these tests, I've got a Vandal dome, an indoor dome, an all-metal turret, and a bullet camera. So we're going to go ahead and do some testing using a crowbar to see how much damage they can take before they break. So we're going to be starting off with the indoor dome. This camera is not really meant to take any significant impact. It's meant to go inside and not be subject to vandals. And as you can see, a single hit pretty much destroys it. You can see that the housing has separated into multiple pieces. The camera has broken off the mount. Okay, moving on to the Vandal dome. One caveat is this is a pretty old Vandal dome, and I didn't realize it originally, but its Lexan is quite old. So on a second hit, we see a complete shattering of the Lexan. You can see that the Lexan, if you look at it on the cross section, is pretty yellow. It's actually gotten really brittle. This is not typical for a new Vandal dome, but it does happen over time on older Vandal domes. And now we'll see how an all-metal turret handles this level of abuse. And now I'm going to go ahead and give it a few good hits with the crowbar. And actually it took a pretty minor amount of damage. It's got some scuffs from the crowbar obviously, but the glass is intact, the camera's holding together nicely. And finally we'll do the bullet camera. Bullet cameras come in a variety of sizes. This one's actually on the large end of bullet cameras, but we will be hitting it on both the sun shield, and as it rotates I'll hit directly onto the body. So you can see that the housing's a little dinged up, and you can see a small crack here on the aluminum housing, but the glass and the lens assembly all seem to be in good condition still. I found a newer Vandal dome to test that has a much better looking Lexan dome, but I'm going to show you the difference between that and the brittle one from earlier. You can see how much better newer Lexan holds up to abuse. Looking at the dome here, you can see it's only got some scuffs on it, which is pretty amazing considering how bad I was beating on it with that crowbar. So here you can see in really great detail the difference between new Lexan and old Lexan. The new Lexan is much more resilient to impact because it can flex under load, whereas the old Lexan has become brittle and yellow because of sun damage or time, or any combination of things that's just caused it to not be able to absorb the impact the way that new Lexan can. I thought it would be interesting to see how these cameras hold up on a drop test, so I've got the full metal turret camera that has already been hit with a crowbar several times, and we will also be using the Vandal dome from the second Vandal dome test, the one with the new Lexan dome. So both these cameras have already experienced a pretty high degree of damage before we do this drop test. All right, I'll take both cameras up to the second floor landing, and we will see how they take a 14-foot drop. I'm going to start with the small metal turret camera. And now the Vandal dome. Now to check to see how much damage they have taken. The small metal turret actually looks pretty much exactly the same. Not seeing any real significant damage other than a little bit of asphalt that's stuck on the side of the assembly from where it hit the ground. Glass is still intact. Everything looks pretty solid still. And the Vandal dome, which decided to give itself several drop tests as it bounced around down there. First bounce, it probably bounced up about 4 feet. Is in good shape still. Nothing seems to be bouncing around or loose inside, and the lens and the IR assembly look like they're in good condition and, surprisingly, pointed in the same direction as they originally were set up. Okay, so we saw a 14-foot drop test, so I figure why not try dropping them from even higher since they've held up pretty well up until this point. So I am going to drop them from the roof of the building, which is probably another 6 feet higher or so. I'll go ahead and measure that and put it into the video to get an exact distance. All right, let's see. Okay, we're going to start with the metal turret camera. And try to make sure we avoid hitting that ledge down there. All right, I have found a Uniview camera to add into this group so that we can test their Vandal domes on an extreme drop. All right, and rounding out our test is this big guy, the massive Vandal dome. Now let's get them all lined up and take a look at the damage. The turret camera actually has broken glass above the lens assembly, but overall still looks pretty solid. The Uniview camera has some scuff marks on the dome, but otherwise looks undamaged. And the big Vandal dome looks about the same, but internally the lens has separated and is floating somewhat loosely inside the housing. Since the Uniview camera came into this group a little late, it didn't get impact tested with the crowbar, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And as you can see, like the other Vandal dome, it absorbed the impacts very well and appears to be in very good shape besides the abrasion marks on the polycarbonate dome. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to see all of our latest product and how-to videos at WeSupplySecurity.com.